Welcome to another episode of Firm Foundations podcast with your host CJ and Tony. Today we're going into Genesis chapter 37, which drops us into a story that seems a little unexpected and out of nowhere because so far we've been following the messy family of Jacob, and the next person we would expect to hear about would be his firstborn, Reuben. After all, Reuben is his firstborn. He should carry the family legacy and the spiritual mandate into the future. But he has disqualified himself 2 chapters ago when he slept with his father's concubine. Um, so logically, the next step should be Simeon or Levi, the second and third borns. But they also disqualified themselves with their rash and um,
Brutal act.
brutal, thoughtless reactions to the tragedy their sister Dina went through. And so we would expect it to go down the line, one after the other in order of succession. So the Joseph story comes out of nowhere. The 11th son, the son who's not, I mean, he's next to last in the totem pole. He should not be the one that we see. And we don't know any reason why the fourth son was skipped over. Um, the other four sons, we can guess that because they were the children of the concubines, that they had a lesser standing. Okay. And of course, Rachel was the beloved wife. So, of course, her sons will take precedence over the sons of the concubines. But still, there is an older son before we get there. And there's no mention about him yet. He has not been disqualified yet. So what's going on? What? Um, but suddenly in the narrative, Reuben tries to regain his honor, tries to make amends and perhaps get back his lost uh, privilege. But the story, at first glance, is all about Joseph, his wisdom, his uh, prophetic visions, dreams, his the favor that he has in his father's eyes, his suffering, um, and yet tension is building and explodes out of nowhere, where Judah, the fourth son, steps up, and through, even though he's deeply flawed and um, he's not the firstborn, he's not the favored son, through repentance and sacrifice and leadership, he he's going to r- rise in the ranks, if you will. And there's the tension. So much so that the sages of Israel later on would see that there's two messianic lineages in their mind diverging. One is the Messiah, son of Joseph, one is the Messiah, son of David, the suffering servant, the suffering and rejected Messiah, and the Messiah who will reign and rule in victory. But Genesis 37 is showing us that these two lines are not diverging, but they're coalescing. They are coming to meet at a point in time. And even though the sages of Israel couldn't figure it out, couldn't see that there's only one Messiah, that he is both the suffering and dying servant and the conquering king. Um, I mean, despite their blindness to that, this is what it's setting up. And it's showing us that before the king can take the throne, before the Messiah, son of David, can appear, Messiah, son of Joseph, must appear. Before there's a crown, there must be the pit. Um, so, this is where uh, this journey is leading. There are some other details, some other um, interesting tidbits we're going to get into,
Mhm.
some side quests, but that's the end.
But this, I mean, for the next 12, 13 chapters, it's nothing but about Joseph. And
Exactly.
that's leading to our next book, Exodus. That's exciting. I've always liked Exodus. Always liked reading about Moses.
Yeah.
Uh, and that how I know I'm getting ahead of myself, but how Moses is in my opinion, is the first one to really have meaningful relationship with God Himself. I
Hmm.
mean, he he is he ends up being the spokesperson uh, more so than any other prophet uh, with his relationship because it's constant. It's not just a few times like
Yeah.
Abraham,
Yeah.
you know, some with Jacob. You know, it's constant, and
Yeah.
it brings the relationship to the Israelites through Moses, and it's just it's amazing to me
Yeah.
uh,
Yeah.
how that works.
It's interesting. The rabbis pick up on this and they'll say, from Moses to Moses, there was no one like Moses. Meaning, from Moses of the Bible to Moses, um, Moshe ben Maimon, uh, also known as Rambam, who was seen as one of the greatest intellects in Judaism. There's no one like Moses,
Hmm.
which is problematic for us because, you know, there's Jesus between the two.
Right.
And, but there, if you don't recognize Jesus, then it's natural to single out Moses.
Hmm.
Yeah.
But I guess I'm looking at it from and let me finish here, from a human standpoint
Yeah.
of a human being.
Yeah.
Yes, Jesus was human, but He was also God.
Yeah.
So it sounds strange, but that disqualifies in the
Yeah.
natural sense of we understand how people are,
Yeah.
and that Moses was, I mean, just he rarely failed God. Rarely. There was one big mistake he made,
Yeah.
but
There's a
for the most
couple,
part, he
but
was, I mean, just on track.
yeah.
So anyway, I we'll get started here. Chapter 37. Now
Yeah.
Jacob dwelt in the land where his father was stranger in the land of Canaan. This is the history of Jacob. Joseph, being 17 years old, was feeding the flock with his brothers, and the lad was with the sons of Bilhah and sons of Zilpah, his father's wives, and Joseph brought a bad report of them to his father. What a 17-year-old. Is it because maybe he was the youngest and he wanted to get favor with his dad to, hey, I'm going to snitch on my. They're not his mother, but Jacob's wives, the two maidservants uh, of Rachel and Leah.
Yeah.
What do you feel the purpose of him snitching? Being a little tattletale. My dad would have busted my butt for being a snitch.
I know, right? I mean, that's interesting. I think um, Jacob and you would feel similar about Joseph in the sense that you identify him as the baby of the family because we often forget that there's a younger brother Benjamin.
Mhm. Well, yeah,
But
I knew that, but how much older is Joseph than Benjamin? Do we know?
I think at least 8 is the guesstimate.
Okay, so he's probably not old enough to be out there with his brothers
Yeah,
at this time, this
yeah.
point in time. So,
There's that, but also there's something else. And for all the fans of Game of Thrones out there, there was one character that is a lot like Benjamin in this sense that his father hated him, and his brother and sister hated him because, well, when their mother went into labor with the midget, the little person, the imp, as they call him, um, their mother dies in childbirth.
mhm,
And that's what happens with Benjamin. And his mother was Jacob's, the love of his life, his favorite wife.
mhm,
And so it's natural that Jacob would almost not feel the same level of the baby of the family kind of love towards Benjamin. And so he keeps investing that love into
Joseph.
Joseph, which is tragic in one sense, especially for Benjamin. But um, so yeah, with that special relationship with his father, he probably just I'm gonna be my father's ears and eyes, and I'm
Uh
gonna like report everything. I'm gonna make sure he knows everything. But
huh.
the rabbis and the sages argue amongst themselves like, well, the ancestral tribal ancestors, they were amazing men of God. We can't even imagine, fathom them being so horrible. So perhaps he was just, you know, telling tall tales or stuff to his father. Well, then you're pointing Joseph in the light that you say you can't portray the others in. So it's inconsistent. But perhaps there was something going on where perhaps they were not always doing the right thing, and he was doing what a good son will do and look
Hmm.
after his father's interest. But also perhaps there's the sibling rivalry where you know they're all bigger than him, they're all older than him. He's you know as I stated in the opening, you know he's inconsequential, he's irrelevant. So he might want to gain some relevancy by doing that. Also, it could be that perhaps, like you said, he's only 17. He's young, he's inexperienced, he doesn't understand everything. I mean, I was 30 years old and I was still a buffoon. I was 42 and I was still a buffoon.
Let me throw this in at you because we know what happens with David as we go on, but perhaps he was a snitch with his brothers too, which is feeds the fire of what we're going to be reading here. You
I
know,
mean, maybe,
I mean,
maybe.
if he's a snitch,
Um,
you would. I've known snitches, and they'll tell on anybody for any type of gain that they can find.
oh, yeah.
Uh, and because of his age, Uh, this puts him in a a good
Yeah.
position of being a tattletale
Yeah.
for everything that goes on. Hey, Dad, they didn't feed the flocks in the area that you wanted.
Yeah. Oh Lord.
I don't know how much.
Ush- Asher didn't close the gate, and the flocks are running off again, Daddy. This full of your son. But yeah, I mean, it's almost the stars are lining up, as they say. But and perhaps this is where we get the famous saying, "Snitches get stitches and end up in ditches," as we're gonna see. Um, but but perhaps he made some misjudgments and too harshly uh, judged his brothers because of his youthful ignorance and lack of wisdom, and brought less than accurate um, reports to his father from time to time.
Well,
Eh,
Jacob doesn't help the matter,
Oh no.
uh, which we're fixing to get into real quick. He did not, you know, you have one, you have one child, your son. I have three, two boys and a girl. Now my boys know that my daughter was favored not above them, but because she was my daughter, the only daughter I had, and I had talked about this before about you protecting
Yeah.
to no end. I will back you up. Uh, and it's not. I didn't give her more like Jacob did. Uh, so there's a big difference what Jacob is doing with this one son.
Yeah.
Uh, I can see where people can favor a child
Yeah.
more so in a sense, and that's fine as long as they love each child the same.
Yeah.
You know, favoring isn't putting love above others. It's just a natural instinct that you have.
Yeah.
Uh,
I mean, in all this, I actually understand Jacob, why he's maybe favoring Joseph above all else,
it's
except for Judah. Like, Judah hasn't done anything to him. Judah is, at least until next chapter. Well, actually, well, we'll see.
yeah.
Um, he's not perfect, but up until somewhere in the middle of this chapter and the next chapter, he's been as far as we know, a good son, and hasn't done anything um, to grieve his father.
Hmm.
Not like Reuben did,
Right.
not like Shimon and Levi did,
Mm-hmm.
but I understand that why he would look at them and say, "Oh, they're nothing but trouble," and that's why I love Joseph and Judah. Is what I would say, but I don't know. He just doesn't click with Judah the same way, so I feel bad for him. But there's another thing in verse 2 that um, causes some discussion
Mm-hmm.
in rabbinical literature, especially uh, in the Middle Ages and the Talmud, even. And it's in the way they chose to translate the very first few uh, words. This is the history of Jacob. The word translated as history is Toledot, which is everywhere else translated as the generations of, the descendants of. Um, and even the Jewish Publication Society, when they translate the Bible into English, and don't quote me on this, I think the Aramaic translations also translated as this is the chronicle, or this is the history of, or this is the story of uh, Jacob, instead of these are the generations of. And so in the Middle Ages, especially, they get into a discussion about why is it preferable to translate it as chronicles or history instead of generations. And one side was says, well, it's because it's not really talking about all the generations or all the descendants of Jacob. It's specifically focusing on Joseph. So it's really not about the generations of Jacob. But then Rashbam uh, takes makes this the opportunity to bring up interesting attitude that the sages of Israel had towards the Bible and the Talmud, and almost in a politically correct, respectful manner, um, really chastises them. And what he says is that the general understanding from the sages is that the Torah, the first five books, especially, are just there to teach us the different um, aspects and um, interpretations of the law, especially the oral law. Everything else is fluff or language that is constructed in a certain way to kind of veil the secrets of the law of God. And he brings up a Talmudic dictum that they, the other sages, have tended to forget, and that's that no verse can lose its straightforward meaning. So, sure, let's go looking for deeper meaning. Let's go look for, you know, stuff that are hidden in between the lines, kind of like we do when we're questioning motives and
Hmm.
like, why is this way? Why is that way? Those are good um, exercises and a good way to wrestle with the text and try to understand what God is saying in the background. And those are all good and well, but the straightforward meaning is still the straightforward meaning, is still there. It just happens to have meanings hidden in between the lines. It doesn't lose the actual clear cut understanding. And he contrasts the other sages with his father and grandfather. And while all the others in their piety looked for the hidden, deeper meanings, his grandfather and father, in their commentaries, focused mostly on the straightforward meaning. And he quotes them saying how they regretted not writing more commentaries focusing on the straightforward meaning that they're just now realizing is right there in front of them day by day. Um, and, you know, this has an application for us today too. If you're an Orthodox Jew and you just happen to be watching us right now, I already, shared what the sages of Israel have said. The straightforward meaning of a verse cannot be lost. And um, another dictum is that, and Rushbaum is clearly disagreeing with this, is that there's some benefit in studying the Bible, but studying the Talmud is more beneficial, and that's because they've lost sight of this is the Word of God also, or this is the Word of God, and uh, it's straightforward. Yes, it has its hidden meanings. Yes, it has its secrets that we can elucidate, but this is the Word of God for us throughout time, and we need to focus on this also. I, without this, the oral law doesn't stand. Without this, the oral law has no. We get it backwards, and we say when we prioritize the oral law and the Talmud over the Bible. That's a mistake, and Rashbam agrees with that in his own way, in his own words. Um, so there's that. For my Gentile Christian brothers and sisters, we make a similar mistake when we read the Bible and we read into it the meaning that we want it to have. We 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 read it and an idea pops into our head and we say, okay, this is what it's saying, even though it's not saying. And there's so many examples. Really, I don't feel like getting too detailed into like, um, are Christians allowed to eat pork or not, right? And there's several verses that everybody goes to that, and I will agree, yes, Gentile Christians are allowed to eat pork. Full stop, period, done. That's it. But the way I would get to it versus the way most people get to it is completely different. I will base it on passages that specifically state that Gentiles are not under the law, right? So if they're not under the law, then the prohibitions in the law do not apply to them. But what most people do will they'll look at, uh, for example, the vision that the Apostle Peter had, and they'll say, "See, God told him to cut and eat all those unkosher animals," without realizing that those unkosher animals, it's visionary language, it's dream language, where they are a substitute for something else. It's they symbolized the Gentile world that was considered unkosher, that was considered unclean. And in fact, that meaning is given within the description, within the narrative of that passage itself, right? It has nothing to do with the actual animals and an order, a command from God to actually cut and eat them, right? So we take a meaning that we hope it has and we interject it um into the text of the Bible, or the commentary of the Bible. And that is not helpful. It's words have meaning, and there are exegetical um, principles that we need to adhere to so we can properly parse meanings. That's why one of the most important lessons or classes in school, I think, is uh, the classes on logic. Usually, at least in Turkey, it's taught within the general uh, topic of math. Um, and there are some so-called translations of the Bible that do this. That when we lean on them too much, we start getting the habit from them to do the same thing, like the Passion or the Amplified or the Message translations, which they're not really translations at all. They're paraphrases. The person that, or the committee that claim to be translating the Bible, and those are really just putting down what they think, what they feel the passage means. And it's not a real translation. That's why it irks me when I hear somebody quoting it or quoting them, any one of them. Um, for more information on, let's say, the Passion Translation and so on and so forth, Mike Winger has a great uh, episode on his channel where he actually hired several uh, professional translators and scholars to evaluate the so-called translations and give their unbiased, scholarly um, analysis of it. So, like I said, side quests, rabbit trails. We go down them. I'm gonna leave it at that. Two
Okay.
verses in.
Yep. All right, here we go. Let's do a couple more. Now, Israel, that is Jacob. You know, it's funny how they do Jacob, Israel, Jacob.
Yeah.
And also, I know there's short rabbit trail. Uh, when uh, the Jews refer to um, the father of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob, why did they not change that to Abraham, Isaac, and Israel?
Good question.
You know, it's kind of, you know, if God changed his name officially, you know, I'm just kind of curious. That's
Yeah.
crazy question.
Good question. I think it. I mean, I actually never asked that question, to be honest. So I'm not sure.
Oh.
But if I had to guess, it's probably because in several places he introduces himself as the God of Abraham, Isaac, and Jacob. So
Sounds logical to me. We'll stick with that one because I mean I was just curious.
yeah,
So anyway, now Israel loved Joseph more than all his children because he was the son of his old age. Also, he made him a tunic of many colors. But when his brothers saw that their father loved him more than all his brothers, they hated him and could not speak peaceably to him. Um, so this is not the beginning of their jealousy. They've really never liked because he's the youngest. I mean, there's Benjamin, but Benjamin's not up yet
yeah,
in age enough. But they've seen how his brother does, and that's why I was talking about. Maybe he was a snitch to them too, and he hated them all the more. They hated him all the more. Uh, you know, the youngest gets by with more. I can admit to that. uh,
yeah,
but their their hatred toward him didn't just start at age 17.
oh,
This has been an ongoing thing, uh, and we can see. I mean, this first time that it's spoken of that they did not like him.
yeah,
Uh,
yeah. They have several reasons in their mind to hate him. Some of them might be justified. Some of them aren't. But yeah, it's not his fault that his daddy loves him more and favors him more. But it, it's understandable. Jealousy turn into hatred. That
well, and maybe because they seen how much he loved his mother more than they loved their mothers, whatever.
yeah,
uh, so there's another thing that could be part of the problem. Anyway,
yeah,
um,
yeah,
so here we go. Here's some fun stuff coming up.
yeah.
Verse 5. Now Joseph had a dream, and he told it to his brothers, and they hated him even more. So he said to them, please hear this dream which I have dreamed. There we were, binding sheaves in the field. Then behold, my sheaf arose and also stood upright. And indeed, your sheaves stood all around, and bowed down to my sheaf.
Mm.
And his brothers said to him, shall you indeed reign over us? Or shall you indeed have dominion over us? So they hated him even more for his dreams and for his words.
Mm.
That is not a good way to try to make amends
Yeah,
to people who don't like you. That's just adding fuel to the fire.
yeah. I mean, youthful lack of wisdom. But it's interesting that his brothers get the meaning of the dream. It's not a secret. But what's interesting about the dream is that his sheath stands upright on its own. meaning there's no help from the others.
Mm-hmm.
He's all alone, and the others are just, they have no say in the matter. They are forced to bow down. And we're going to see something about that
Oh yeah,
happening.
yeah.
Where,
Uh,
yeah.
guess here we go again. Then he dreamed still another dream and told it to his brothers and said, "Look, I have dreamed another dream. And this time the sun, the moon, and the 11 stars bowed down to me." So he told it to his father and his brothers, and his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamed? Shall your mother and I and your brothers indeed come to bow down to the earth before you?"
Mm,
And all his brothers envied him, but his father kept the matter in mind. Uh, kind of reminds me of uh, Mary.
yeah.
Keeping
Yeah.
things in mind of what the angel told her about about her son that she's about to have.
Exactly.
Uh,
I think that was in the gospel author's mind when he noted that.
oh, really?
I think that was there. But there's something else going on interesting. If you noticed, he says his father, or it says that his father rebuked him and said to him, "What is this dream that you have dreamt? Shall your mother and I and all your brethren too?" His mother's dead. How's his mother supposed to
Hmm.
bow down to him? So it's almost like his father is like, "Oh, my dumb son. He's just gonna make more problems with for himself with his brothers. So let me ridicule him by reminding him, how's your mama gonna bow down to you when she's dead?"
Hmm.
Kind of like ease the tension with the brother, saying, "See, there's nothing to it.
Right.
Don't
That's just
worry
a
about it."
flim flam dream.
Yeah.
There's been an error uh, in this. Um,
Yeah.
and like you said, the wisdom, it didn't escape him. He's never had wisdom yet. But his wisdom escaped him, so to speak, by telling him this dream. And uh, maybe on purpose to, I don't know, it's,
Maybe. Mhm.
but it all leads up to more. I mean, everything that's happening is leading up to a point where uh, the, these dreams will be interpreted uh,
Yeah.
in his life, so to speak.
So
Um,
he's hated because he's a snitch. He's hated because
he's the favorite son.
he's the favorite son, and he's hated because he's getting prophetic visions and dreams that they're not liking.
Hmm. It's all about him. It's all about Joseph. I mean, no doubt about it. Um,
Yeah.
whenever this started, uh, like I said, it could have been started because uh, Jacob loved Rachel more than any other wife,
Yeah.
and so that kind of put a little, I'd just say a little wedge between them, between his sons
Oh yeah.
and the two sons that Rachel had.
Yeah.
Um,
There's a reason why Reuben was out there picking mandrakes for his mama.
so, uh,
Yeah.
verse 12. Then his brothers went to feed their father's flock in Shechem. And Israel said to Joseph, "Are not your brothers feeding the flock in Shechem? Come, I will send you to them." So he said to him, "Here I am." Then he said to him, "Please go and see if it is well with your brothers and well with the flocks, and bring back word to me." So he sent him out to the valley of Hebron, and he went to Shechem. Now a certain man found him, and there he was, wandering in the field. And the man asked him, saying, "What are you seeking?" So he said, "I am seeking my brothers. Please tell me where they are feeding their flocks." And the man said, "They have departed from here, for I heard them say, 'Let us go to Dothan.' So Joseph went after his brothers and found them in Dothan." Um, I had asked you earlier uh, about this, and something had come to mind. Number one is, why was he not with his brothers in the first place? Because obviously he's been out with them before, but at this point, he's not out there with them. They've either left him behind because they're sick and tired of listening to his dreams, and they didn't want anything to do with him. He's like, "You're just a thorn in our side,
Yeah.
a rock in our shoe. We don't want you around us because you're putting yourself above us."
Yeah.
So he's not there, um, and so his dad, sends him out to find him, uh, and and we had talked about this next in 15, where he's wandering around in the field, uh, and he sees a man and
Yeah.
asks him and gets information. And this is where I take uh, literal passage. This man is out there. He's in, this man is in the right place at the right time.
Yeah.
And in my viewpoint is, God had that man being in that area at that time for this particular reason.
Yeah.
Uh, because it just makes it simple. Everything doesn't have to be complicated, and
Yeah.
you know, but
But there's some questions here,
Yes.
because and the rabbis are gonna pick up on these questions and say, "Oh, maybe this was a man, maybe he was a angel,"
Mhm.
because it's just too convenient. Now, in the New King James Version, it says, "A certain man found him," but the Hebrew is just a man. Just a man, not a certain man, not a man that we know, not a man that they would have known, not a certain person, not a,
Mhm.
just
Real quick, because I just thought this. Okay, because we had talked about. I said, well, usually the if it's an angel that's doing this, it's written down
yeah.
as it's an angel. Is there another instance where somebody just happens to be in the right place at the right time that's not introduced as an angel?
Hmm. I'm not thinking of anyone right now. Nothing's coming to my mind. Do you, do you
I
have
don't
any
know of
idea?
any, because
No, that would be interesting to see.
you know, and that's part of the reason why it's like, well, if it's an angel, it's usually announced before or after
Yeah.
the happenings, you know. And
Yeah.
we had talked about this. I think it was in Hebrews where it says we entertain strangers and we don't know if they're angels or not.
Yeah.
But every time that an angel's been involved, they've either introduced themselves of who they were, or after, like the incidents with Peter, when he
Yeah.
escapes jail, he realizes that it was his angel, his guardian angel, so to speak.
Yeah.
So,
I vaguely recall that there was at least one incident
mhm.
where we don't know it's an angel right away till later on, but I can't remember where it is. I can't even remember the narrative around it.
Well, I mean, but
So
you still found out that it was an angel.
yeah,
This here
yeah,
doesn't,
yeah,
nothing before or after.
and
So,
that's why I kind of tend to agree with your your stance on this. But I gotta be the devil's advocate and make the argument because you know yes, this happens a lot even today where everything just lines up by providence, by God's, God ordains it so that,
mhm.
things just line up and it's just awfully convenient. Um, and of course, now my mind is going to political conspiracy theories and stuff, which I'm not gonna go. I'm gonna fight that urge. But yeah, things in life do happen that it's like, huh, that's clearly God's hand in this, and we don't necessarily attribute it to an angel or anything. And but some of the rabbis did, and I can see why, because it's too convenient. He's just walking around.
Mhm.
He's obviously not a shepherd. He's obviously not a uh, laborer in somebody's field, because if it was a vineyard or a field of any kind, you're not gonna uh, graze your livestock there.
Mhm.
That's a good way to get shot, even if all you have is a bow and arrow or
Yeah.
some
Sling.
sling. And so
He could have been the landowner.
he could have been the landowner,
He could have been somebody that was passing through, and he heard he met his brothers and just chit chatted a little bit and went
and
about his way.
but that also brings up the question, like, even if he chit chatted, how does he know that they were his brother? Like,
Well, the Bible obviously doesn't state word for word what conversations are,
exactly.
and he could have said, "Oh yeah, those like 10 guys that had just went with their flocks. I heard them talking about this." There's
Yeah,
there's so many scenarios that could take place uh, within this this verse, you know,
yeah.
and the rabbis may be right. It may have been an angel,
It doesn't matter,
but
like you were saying earlier before we
yes,
started recording.
yes,
It's not going to change our salvation,
that's
so
right,
who
that's
cares?
right.
I mean, I care because I'm a nerd, and
it, it, it's fun to know,
exactly.
to try to figure this stuff out.
Curious minds want to know, but curiosity also killed the cat,
Yes, it did.
right? But hey, I would like to hear. I'm sure we would like to hear your thoughts on this. So if you're enjoying our back and forth banter and our commentary, if we're bringing different sources, different ideas that you haven't encountered before, or whatever, drop us a line in the comments. Um, let us know what you're thinking. Um, as we always say, we would like to learn from you. Also, we know that we don't know all. We are not all knowing. We are not God, and I sincerely believe that we all have something to teach one another, like it says in 2 Corinthians, I believe. We all have, when we get together, a psalm or a teaching or a tongue or an interpretation, so on and so forth. So we would love to hear your whatever God has gifted you with. Please grace us with it. Um, Also, help us get the gospel and biblical knowledge in front of the nations, in front of as many people as possible. And the way you can do that is by sending us a $5,000 check. No, I'm just kidding.
He is absolutely kidding.
Just please don't take that seriously. Just like, subscribe, and share. Um, Sharing, obviously, letting your friends know, um, but liking it and subscribing to it and engaging with it through comments or sharing lets YouTube know that there's something here that people are enjoying, that people value, and that makes YouTube want to put this in front of other people. So it helps the algorithm, the all powerful algorithm, decide what it wants to do with us. And yeah, even though we're a small channel, our shorts go all around the world, literally. Uh, we've had over 400,000 views on our shorts so far. Um, it's not the millions that a lot of other channels are used to by now, but
Mhm.
we just started a few months ago, you know, and with your help, we can do uh, a greater impact. Um, so please partner with us. You know.
Yes, yes, yes. All right. Verse 18. Now, when they saw him afar off, even before he came near them, they conspired against him to kill him. Then they said to one another, "Look, this dreamer is coming." This dreamer. "Come, therefore, let us now kill him and cast him into some pit, and we shall say, some wild beast has devoured him. For we shall, for shall we, we shall see what will become of his dreams." But Reuben heard it, and he delivered him out of their hands and said, "Let us not kill him." And Reuben said to them, "Shed no blood, but cast him into the pit which is in the wilderness, and do not lay a hand on him, that he might be delivered, that he might deliver him out of their hands and bring him back to his father."
Mhm.
So Reuben's got a little bit of brains here. Uh, is trying to protect his brother.
Yeah.
Um, obviously he kind of agrees with them. Let's throw him in a pit. Well, and I don't know how big these pits are, uh, or how deep, but apparently he just can't climb out of it. Um, but he's trying to protect his brother somewhat and protect his father.
Yeah.
That's a big thing on his mind right there. Uh, you know, it's a horrible uh, thing for a uh, mother and father to lose a child.
Mhm.
Uh, so I think he's got that in mind. Even if he had 100 children, it doesn't
Yeah.
matter. You lose a child, that's a great loss because you've just lost a piece of yourself.
Yeah.
So he's, I'm sure he's got that in mind, and he's just trying to protect him, just trying to cool things down. Hey, okay, I understand that we
Yeah.
want to kill him because he's putting himself above us for his dreams.
I mean, who hasn't want to kill their brothers from time to time? Just the other day, my dad was saying something, and I was like, no, no. It was involving us moving back in with him and my brother, and I was like, me and my brother under the same roof, I'd kill him. Of course, I'm joking, but
Not
I
literally,
can
it's figuratively.
I can understand the urge, but yeah, oh, I mean, he Ruben here is. It's been only 2 chapters, but probably years have passed. He's matured. He's probably trying to get back in his father's good graces
Mhm.
because he lost. He disqualified himself from uh, the family firstborn privileges and the honor, but he's trying to step up now, and uh, I messed that one up, but maybe at least I can redeem myself this way.
Mhm.
Um,
Well, somebody's got to be the good guy, right?
yeah,
um, verse,
somebody else had that idea too, which is going to be interesting.
yeah. Verse 23. So it came to pass when Joseph had come to his brothers that they stripped Joseph of his tunic and the tunic of many colors that was on him. Then they took him and cast him into a pit, and the pit was empty. There was no water in it. And they sat down to eat a meal. Then they lifted their eyes and looked, and there was a company of Ishmaelites coming from Gilead with their camels bearing spices, balm, and myrrh on their way to carry them down to Egypt. So Judah said to his brothers, "What profit is there if we kill our brother and conceal his blood? Come and let us sell him to the Ishmaelites, and not let our hand be upon him, for he is our brother and our flesh. And his brothers listened. Then the Midianite traders passed by. So the brothers pulled Joseph up and lifted him out of the pit and sold him to the Ishmaelites for 20 shekels of silver. And they took Joseph to Egypt.
Mm.
Well, uh, purposely taking his tunic because they knew it identified him completely. There was nothing else like that coat of many colors.
Yeah. I mean, back in the day, it took a lot of bugs to make dyes, and dyes were expensive, and you didn't wear all these different colored clothes that we have today.
Mm-hmm.
Just wasn't feasible for regular people. Um,
Yeah, there's a certain colored dye that is a royal color that
Purple,
comes from shellfish, if I'm not mistaken.
yeah, purple. Um, yeah,
I can't remember which shellfish it is, but uh, you know, like I said, it's not just a cheap process because it
yeah,
takes time to get collect them and then crush them and get the color out, whatever all that is, and uh, so and I can understand the brothers being jealous because this is an expensive coat.
yeah,
Uh, it's not just like you said. You don't just go to Walmart and
yeah,
buy
yeah.
this thing. It's specially made.
Yeah, the difference is between a plastic Casio watch and a
Rolex.
Rolex. Yeah,
Uh-huh.
that's a good one.
uh, and then here the Ishmaelites, the here they are once
Yeah,
again, uh,
yeah,
being involved in the mix.
yeah.
Um,
There has to be something there because it stresses it's the Ishmaelites,
mm-hmm.
and then in the middle it says the Midianite traders. So the Ishmaelites are living in Midian at this time, which puts them in a place in time. So they're not just some mythical figures; they're actual people living in an area, and they're trading. And it's interesting because this trade also ties them to southern Arabia, even though Midian was northwestern. Um, I want to say in the area of Jordan. It ties them to the south of like to Yemen and that region because that's where um, let's see uh, well it doesn't actually say the one that I'm thinking about, but um, all these spices came from distant lands and they would travel
Mm-hmm.
through Yemen and go up. Um, and that would be the trade route. So, I mean, yes, there's later on the Silk Road, but the Silk Road isn't the Silk Road yet. This is from places like, I want to say Mauritania, but not Mauritania. The Maldives and places like that is where uh, sailors would go and trade and gather these things and bring them to Yemen, and from there it would go up. So, and that's going to be interesting because later on we think of, um, and we'll get there when we get there, but all the different. I'm trying to blank now what I was going to say. Like the Queen of Sheba that comes to Solomon and them. It shows a long established contact between the two regions. It lends more credibility to the future histories and narratives of the Bible also, that this is an established relationship. These are established trade routes. These are, you know, if you go from, if the traders were coming from a certain way, they would be carrying other goods. But
Hmm.
because they're carrying these goods, we know that they were coming from this one direction. So, again, greater picture, the grander picture, whatever you want to call it, it helps to zoom out and look at it within context. There's a reason why it's stressing where they're coming from and identifying them not only by their genetic lineage, their family ties to this family, but also geographically, and it's the business relationships, and it's all, bringing it all together so that later on we can um, see certain things.
Also, if I'm not mistaken, Moses gets his wife from the Midianites.
Mm,
So
yep.
there's a lot of tie-ins here.
Yep.
Oh, then Reuben returned to the pit, and indeed Joseph was not in the pit, and he tore his clothes. So, I just want to. His plan has just been banished, gone. He was wanting to take his brother back to his
Yeah.
father. Uh,
Yeah.
finds the pit emptied. Where was he when all this happened? Because this didn't happen in just 5 minutes. You know,
Yeah.
usually trades and stuff they take a while because they barter back and forth.
Yeah.
Uh, and of course, we understand what the tearing of clothes is. It's a loss,
Yeah.
a precious loss that uh, thinking that uh, he doesn't know what happened. He's probably thinking his brothers killed him and got rid of him somewhere else.
Yeah.
It probably was the first thing in his mind. Uh,
Yeah. And that this event is actually the heart of the story of this whole narrative. We look at it and you know, on the surface, it's Joseph, like we said in the intro. It's Joseph's dreams, Joseph's lack of wisdom, Joseph's suffering. But under that surface, there's tension brewing between Reuben and Judah. And it's not really between them necessarily, but
mhm.
it's between them in the sense that who's going to be the leader of the family. Right now, it looked like it was supposed to be Joseph. He's the favorite son. He gets all the good stuff. He gets the Rolex. I mean,
Mhm.
the
That might have been another fear that the older brothers had. Is like he's way down at the bottom of the list. Why is he being exalted?
Reuben is trying to gain back his father's favor by saving his brother. Too bad Judah didn't get the memo, because he has the same idea.
Mhm.
He's stepping up as the fourth son, who, he might be looking at it and saying, "Well, my dad doesn't like Shimon and Levi no more because they put him in a bind with what happened, and Reuben, but there's no way he's gonna forgive him. So it's my job." And he's rising to the occasion, ish, in a kind of sort of way. At least maybe he can spare his brother's life.
Mhm.
At least there's that moral superiority in one sense. Um, and that's interesting because, well, we know this is all about the Messiah. So is the Messiah going to be from Reuben's line? Is he going to be from Joseph's line? Is he going to be from Judah's line? And that's what one of the reasons why the rabbi said, there's two Messiahs, son of Joseph and son of David, because they can't figure out that, hey, how does a man die and then reign as king also? We have an answer for that. But I love how this back and forth tension is playing out, and we're seeing them wrestle for the calling, wrestle for the honor to carry out the family's spiritual legacy. Yeah.
And he returned to his brothers and said, "The lad is no more, and I, where shall I go?" So apparently after he says this, they've told him what happened, because he's then he finds out, they have the coat, and now they're going to conspire.
Yeah.
So they took. I'm sorry.
I was just going to say, and see, Reuben, despite wanting to step up, he's still thinking about himself. Where shall I go? Like, this was my ticket to gain my father's favor, and thanks, Judah.
Yeah, I never thought about that. Talking about himself again. So they took Joseph's tunic, killed a kid of goats, and dipped the tunic in the blood. Then they sent the tunic of many colors, and they brought it to their father and said, "We have found this. Do you know whether it is your son's tunic or not?" Oh, really? We just got done saying just how special this one coat was.
It reminds me.
This belonged to your son,
It reminds me of those two other times where people played the father, someone with their mother's help. It's me, Father. I'm Esau. Bless me.
Oh, wow. For sure. Francisco.
Bad theater.
Yeah. Anyway, and he recognized it and said, "It is my son's tunic. A wild beast has devoured him. Without doubt, Joseph is torn to pieces." Then Jacob tore his clothes, put sackcloth on his waist, and mourned for his son many days. And all his sons and all his daughters arose to comfort him, but he refused to be comforted. And he said, "For I shall go down into the grave to my son in mourning." Thus his father wept for him. Now the Midianites had sold him in Egypt to Potiphar, an officer of Pharaoh and captain of the guard. So of course, he recognized the tunic. He is very unhappy because his favorite son, the son of his favorite wife, is supposedly gone. He doesn't. I don't know. His other son from Rebecca. It's almost like he doesn't count, which is kind of odd. I mean, because that would have been his firstborn.
But he killed his mother.
Favorite. So, again, all the focus is put back on Joseph. Sons and his daughters tried to comfort him. Of course, the daughters we don't know if the daughters were told by the brothers, "Hey, this is what really happened." Because and it doesn't say if the daughters hated Joseph also or not. I would assume they did, because that type of attitude is contagious. And if you don't go along with the group, you don't belong.
Mm,
Uh, so,
could be.
but that's another rabbit hole you could go down for an hour or two.
Yeah.
But so we'll say the daughters didn't know, and their comfort was true comfort to their father for the loss of his son.
Yeah.
The other brothers knew. Theirs it was just made up. Oh, we're so sorry you lost your son.
Yeah.
uh, they
Yeah.
they think that they're rid of him now because hey, we've sold him for 20 shekels. Any significance? I meant to ask you that earlier. Any significance to the 20 shekels of silver?
Mm,
Uh,
actually, quite a bit, really. It was, if I'm remembering correctly, the going price for a slave, a young slave. But also, later on, um, there's several calculations that go into, um, for instance, uh, each brother's share of the 20 shekels is exactly the amount that the Mosaic law requires Jews to pay for the temple tax. It's like they still have to almost redeem themselves for that. And that point is made even clearer when God commands that, well, he chastises Israel and says, I wanted all of you to be my priests. You were going to be you're meant to be a priestly nation amongst the nations.
mm-hmm.
But now after the golden calf incident, he chooses the tribe of Levi specifically to represent Israel, and instead of them, the rest of Israel giving their firstborn sons to serve in the temple to be um, priests on their behalf, the Levites are gonna do it. The Kohanim are gonna do it, and Israel is to redeem their firstborn son and the firstborn male uh, son of all of their animals. Um, well, this price for the son that they're supposed to pay to the temple to redeem their son
Mm-hmm.
is 20 shekels. Um,
But there was no temple at the time, so there was no temple tax.
no, but later on, it's
But,
it's too convenient to be a coincidence that
Mhm.
those exact numbers are what God requires of Israel. It's as if He's constantly reminding them, this is what you did, and this is what your ancestors did, and you know. But it also shows, oh, you're all the same. You all
Mhm.
do the same. That's why these animal sacrifices and these um, monies that you pay to redeem yourself doesn't really redeem you. Doesn't forgive your sins. It just covers it up. This is why you need a better, more perfect sacrifice. It's all baked into the temple and temple service and all the rules and regulations regarding everything, really, but especially the temple. And it's forcing our eyes to look upon Jesus. Um, how much did I can't remember honestly. I don't know why. Did Judas get for betraying Jesus?
30 pieces of silver.
30 pieces. So a little more. Hmm.
That's what
That's
I was hoping that was
yeah,
30, but
yeah. That
because that
so,
would have tied into that.
but it doesn't. And
But it doesn't. I think on a purpose because Joseph has nothing really to do with the lineage.
actually, Joseph is through. oh, I can't remember who, one of the ancestors of Jesus. Um, it's interesting that those two lineages from Judah and um, Joseph, and actually the Levitical line also through one of the mothers, I believe, ties into the lineage of the Messiah. That's why it's again not a coincidence. It's just too convenient that he's both the son of the a generation of the suffering servant, because he is the suffering servant, and he's a son of David, the conquering king, because he will come back as the conquering king, and he is the more perfect priesthood that doesn't end in many ways according to the order of Melchizedek, but also tied through one ancestor to the Levitical priesthood. It's yeah, I mean, so and I bring up um the blood price Judas um got paid, because honestly I couldn't remember. Like I said, we're not all knowing, we're not perfect, and you know we don't remember everything, and it's good to show humility and um, remind people that we are aware that we don't always know everything, and even something so basic and important as this. Um,
Mm. Well, between the three of us, we know everything. What I don't know, you may know. What you don't know, I may know. But Jesus knows everything.
Amen to that. But it's just a point of um, like we're human, and it's good to show that. But I wish it was 20. It would have been nice and neat, but it's not. So carry on.
Just, yep.
um, but yeah, so nevertheless, those important lessons stand. Um, yeah.
Well, alrighty then. Joseph's in hot water.
Yeah.
Uh,
The next chapter we're going to see Judah exile himself. Um, yeah, I don't know if he feels like perhaps he can't look in his father's eyes, can't stand to see his face and what the perceived loss of his favored son is doing to him. And uh, he's going to go down some dark paths and going to do some despicable things. And but his story doesn't end there. So
no.
that that's encouragement for all of us. I don't know what you did or what anybody did, but it's not probably as bad as what these guys have done and will continue to do for a little bit. So God's grace covers all as long as we come to Him and plead mercy under the blood. Yeah. So,
Fun show.
would you like to remind everybody about this?
This thing right here. Okay. Yes, we would love to hear from you. Of course, you can do it online or by letter. Uh, but we'd love to hear from your church. We'd love to, uh, what I was going to say, advertise for your church. You know, send us a hat, send us a t-shirt to wear. online on in view of everybody around the world, in your neighborhood, whatever. Uh, the only restrictions is that you are a complete Bible believing church,
Yeah.
without any changes to it. Like Jehovah Witness or uh, was the other one
Mormons.
Mormons. Yeah, you know we're strictly 100% believe what this book says without deviation to it.
Yeah.
So please just you know there's no charge for it, other than mailing us the T-shirts or the hat. We'd we would wear it often.
Yeah.
It would be a lot of fun to have uh, some uh, some churches to represent, and you can give us your address if you want, and we could also tell people where you're at, what's your location. Uh, you know, whatever you'd like us to put out there, as long as it's
Yeah. Yeah. Um, you never know. Maybe that tourist or foreign student from Japan or China or India or whatever might see this and might be in your neck of the woods and might decide to stop by and learn more about Jesus. So
yeah,
let's
that'd be great.
let's make it happen. Um, till next week, God bless you and keep you and make His face shine upon you and give you peace.